Getting married in the modern day is a joke. Especially if you are a man, the system is rigged against you. In this video, we will see why you shouldn't get married, how the system is totally made for you to lose, and how marriage will be the greatest liability of your life. The average divorce rate is 50%, so you have a great chance of getting divorced, unlike the days of your parents who stayed together until death do them part. Modern marriages are a joke, where you can end the marriage whenever you want. Many people who are married do get divorced because they don't want unconditional love, rather they want passionate love instead. Unconditional love to them is boring, predictable, and lacks energy. Also, the other thing that changed that is likely leading to a higher divorce rate is the feminist movement. With its "I don't need men, men are trash" speeches, has encouraged many women to divorce to finally become strong and independent. In fact, women are at the origin of 80% of the divorce applications. The evolution of the condition of women is a good thing. It allows women to work and have some financial independence. They now have the same right as men, they are no longer financially dependent on a man, and divorce has been made easier by the de-Christianization of the Western world. We can divorce just because we don't feel like it anymore. In the last few years, social networks have come to add more problems in relationships. Most modern women's desire for attention outweighs their desire to be loved. They will prefer the attention received on Instagram to a long-term relationship.
Instagram or a long-term boyfriend? Come on.
Instagram.
Okay.
What?
Instagram? Okay. Instagram? Okay.
Oh, you guys are getting red pilled right now.
Okay. What about you?
Probably Instagram.
What the fuck?
Alright, what about
Instagram.
What the fuck? This is why this show is necessary. Do you see how all these girls are in a relationship with Instagram instead of a real man? They're addicted to attention instead of love.
This rate of divorce benefits the government, because after the divorce, it makes the family dependent on the government for welfare. Often the wife because she has custody of the child. This is how in the past, the Democrat Party in the United States got hold of the African American vote. They simply promised social benefits to Black American women if they left their spouses in order to receive welfare. This measure made the number of single mother families jump from 20% to 70% in the African American community. By the way, in the case of African Americans, these were not often married, but the concept is the same. For divorced women who do not need welfare, the law in their favor also benefits the government because they often get a large share of their husband's fortune. The man's fortune is shared by court decision. It has become so crazy that you just have to look at the ranking of the richest women in the world and you will see that most of them are rich because they divorced a rich man and got 50% of his fortune. Whether or not they participated in the creation of it, that does not matter. Women being more spendthrift than men, a part of the fortune paid out goes back into the pocket of the state. It has been shown that women represent 70 to 80% of all consumer purchasing. All this benefit is obtained by the government because they have perfectly ruined the justice system by making it totally biased. To take the most telling statistic, 85% of custodial parents are women, and about 50% of children who live with their mother no longer see their father. In addition, lawyers and associations often encourage women to lie in court to obtain custody of the child, going so far as to accuse the man of child abuse. One anonymous person told her experience on Reddit. 3 years ago, I separated from the father of my children. Due to being on the benefit, I had to declare my change in circumstances to work and income. They called me into the office to speak to them about the situation. There I was met by a case manager who, upon speaking to, started questioning me about domestic violence, to which I explained that no such thing had occurred. She then referred me to another case worker who represented a certain women's organization that I won't name. This women's organization had their own office in the same building. I sat down with this lady, now starting to feel a bit irritated. She started questioning me about my my relationship broke down. I explained to her that I was not a victim of domestic violence. This is where things started to take a sinister turn. This woman was now encouraging me to make up stories and falsely accuse my ex of being abusive. She tried to incentivize me by saying that I could get a without notice protection order and a parenting order that would grant me full custody of our kids and child support as well as the payout from wins. She says later, I began to ask around and over the past 2 years have managed to gather multiple testimonies from women not just from my local but from around New Zealand who have been subjected to the same bullshit, being asked, encouraged, incentivized to make false allegations of domestic violence against the fathers of our children. In the comment section of this thread, you can see the testimonies of other Redditors. Thank you for doing this. I went through a separation with my ex-partners many years ago. In retrospect, I've come to realize that a lot of our hostility was coming not from us, but from our lawyers and other social agencies who were really pushing us both to be confrontational and screw each other over. Although direct accusations of violence were never made, our lawyer took every opportunity to imply she was scared of me and to suggest that her safety was an issue, to paint her as a victim. At the time, she didn't even realize that these things were being said or how they might be interpreted. The police, the lawyers, the courts all incentivize making false allegations. Even if the person is found to be lying, the district attorney rarely then prosecutes because the plaintiff turned defendant will expose them. I've seen it firsthand. Police repeatedly telling a relative she had marks where there was none. They get paid for convictions, not for resolving disputes. I invite you to do more research on this kind of Reddit thread about the lies that lawyers push women to do. The fact is that courts are biased against men, and even if you were to take a prenup, it won't do much good because it can be overturned. This is the case, for example, of Dr. Dre, whose marriage contract was useless during his divorce, since it was overturned, because his wife claimed to have signed it under duress. It is a known tactic of the lawyers to make cancel a contract.
Dr. Dre has laid down a lot of lessons throughout his rapping career, and the best one that we can learn from is from his prenup. Dr. Dre and Nicole Young signed a prenup in 1996 before they got married. The agreement stated that any property acquired in both their names would be community property, which means equally split during a divorce. And for the rest of the property, that spouse that either purchased it or acquired it on their own name would get to keep it. So how did this guy get stuck having to pay more than 1/5 of his fortune and roughly half of his liquid assets? Nicole's lawyers fought the enforcement of this prenup because of claims that Nicole had signed it under duress. Nicole ended up with a victory, especially after claims of abuse came to light during their divorce, and she walked away with a $100 million settlement. Though the prenup was signed, both parties were not willing and excited about the agreement. It all starts with an open conversation, and not one conversation could save you both millions.
You should not blindly trust people who told you that a prenup is 100% secure, because if she cries or she signs it under duress, which is for you difficult to prove that she hasn't, it will put you in very serious trouble because your prenup will be useless. In a video, former NBA player Stephen Jackson tells the story of his marriage and how he cancelled it at the last minute because she refused to sign his prenup but also tried to scam him when he cancelled the wedding by wanting to sign it while crying. He was smart because he knew the problems were coming.
As I'm wiping my tears and stuff off, you know what I'm saying, getting ready to go downstairs and party, somebody from her side comes to my room and say, hey, Steve, hey, hold on, just calm down. She want to talk to you. All right, I'll go talk to her. So look, I get in the room. She's still in her wedding dress, and she crying and right? So soon as I walk in the room, she hard down crying. I'll sign it. Da-da-da-da, I'll sign it. I'm whatever, I'll sign it. Listen, I was born at night, but not last night.
I was born at night, but not last night. And now this relationship is about to go night-night. Yeah, I said that.
One thing I know, anytime somebody signs anything where they crying under any type of stress or any real emotional or something like that, that shit can get thrown out.
That's a very good point. If you sign something under duress, it can get thrown out. So anyone who's under emotional stress, any kind of physical stress, that's whatever, if they sign something, it's not a valid contract. It can be voided.
Yeah, wise man.
Yeah, well, he's learned to. I mean, listen, if you're making 20, 30 million, 40 million, you better learn about
It's
some
not
money.
even that. It's that he's an NBA player. He's been around other stories as well.
Sure.
Other motherfuckers got played and he's seen stuff. And he's seen stuff. So that you know?
You think that not getting married can prevent you from facing all these worries? But beware, because it is not enough to not get married. Since governments and feminist groups have noticed that men are avoiding marriage, which also, by the way, lowers the divorce rate. The divorce rate is not lower because people divorce less, but rather because people marry less. So don't get fooled by people who tells you that the divorce rate is going down. The government and these associations have decided to toughen up the law to go after men in relationships without marriage. For example, in the United States, several states have introduced common law marriage. You are considered in some states as married after some time spent together with your girlfriend in the same house, and other criteria are taken into account depending on the state. In these states, without getting married, a woman can claim a portion of your asset upon separation. The conditions are the same as in a divorce. Obviously, your chances of losing a significant portion of your assets are also the same. In Australia, it's even worse. Not only does de facto marriage exist throughout the whole country, unlike the United States where it exists only in some states, but also in an interview with ABC News, Rachel Sharer, founder of DivorceAnswer.com, explains that any relationship in which people consider themselves to be committed in some way without being related to each other can be de facto. There is no timeline and there is no minimum time period. She even goes so far as to say that in Australia there is a relationship called de facto by distance, which means that even though you may not be living together exclusively and full-time, as long as you stay in each other's house or home when you're in each other's local space, then you're definitely considered in a de facto relationship. So, according to her, there is no minimum time period. She can spend a single night in your home and cartoonishly claim half of your wealth and property. Further on in the article, she specifies that de facto couples have most of the same right as married couples under Australian law, and that means they can often face the same issues when the relationship soars, like who gets to keep what. One of the myths is that people feel that at the end of the de facto relationship they don't need to split assets. She also says that just because assets might be in one person's name doesn't mean that the other partner can't make a claim on those assets, and it's also not necessarily split 50-50 at the end either. So she says that a woman who have been living in your house in Australia for a short time without any minimum period can not only claim a part of your wealth, but also your separation will be treated as a divorce in Australia. She will be entitled to have the same condition as a normal divorce. The fact that your assets are in your name or not doesn't change anything. She is entitled to claim a part of it in the Australian justice system. As you can see, not only is the legal system against you if you are married, first you have a 50% chance of ending up divorced if you get married in these countries. Add to that the fact that your prenup can be overturned as we have seen, but also in some countries or some American states, a woman can be entitled to claim a part of your wealth simply because she is your girlfriend. By the way, it also concerns the wealth you have made before meeting her. So be careful, guys. The marriage system is against us. It has been corrupted by the governments and some feminist associations. You'd better be careful. On that note, take care of yourself.